right, if you're just joining us, it's still your weekend and you have not missed anything really. And now it's time for us to have our first conversation. And this conversation literally can save or could save a life. And our first guest is someone who is doing incredible work in global health advocacy. And we are here to talk about cervical cancer, what women should know about, what, the awareness that would help save a life. And I have with me the amazing Jocelyn Lee. Welcome to your weekend.
Great. Thank you so much for having me here.
All right. So let's know, first things first, what is cervical cancer all about? What's it all about?
Yeah, so cervical cancer is a cancer that is actually very preventable, which is why it's important to educate early on.
Okay.
It's a slow growing cancer, so
Right.
we want to do the steps to prevent it, and there's that window that we have. It is also very common, and so it's something we need to tackle.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what inspired you to focus on cervical cancer prevention in Nigeria?
Yeah, so specifically in Nigeria, cervical cancer is the number two most common cancer for women.
Mm.
There are over 61 million people at risk for this cancer.
Mm.
So it's very important that we attack this topic and that we share it because it is very, very important.
Okay, all right. So why is cervical cancer a significant health issue in Nigeria? What statistics
Mm.
highlights the urgency of addressing this problem?
Yeah, and so kind of discussed earlier, but more to add on that. Not only is it the second most common, there are about 12,000 women that are affected by this every year, and over half of them die. So it's about we lose one woman every hour to cervical cancer here in Nigeria.
Okay.
So it's very prevalent.
But can you elaborate on your multi-tiered plan for cervical cancer prevention? What are the key components?
Yeah, so the approach that we're hoping to do is first start with education and
Okay.
awareness.
Okay.
So getting that information out there is the first step. Second is providing the access to the vaccine itself, but also access to screening methods.
Mm.
So whether we can collaborate with local clinics, work in different ways to create programs to bring the access to the people would be something we want to work on. And lastly, for sustainability, we want to find advocates in the community so that this can continue. They can share with their community and spread the word and create sustainability.
Okay. So is it particular to a certain type of woman, or is it all women that have to go for the screening?
Yeah, so it is a screening that starts at age 25.
Okay.
That is what's recommended because it targets usually once we start seeing this cancer is close to around ages of 30 to 45 or so.
Okay.
So we try to target maybe these 25 to 49, but you continue screening close to after menopause. And then once you've been cleared, it's something you don't have to continue if you've had certain criteria.
Okay.
But we also reach the younger women.
Okay.
Younger, yeah.
All right. So, what strategies? How does your organization plan to educate the community and its risk factors?
Yeah, so we are hoping to bring it in a culturally sensitive way as well, of just
Okay.
sharing with different schools around the community, educating the young girls ages 9 to 14, as well as young boys, and also for women in the larger communities who are older women who can benefit from the information.
Do you make it how presentable do you make your the information you pass across? Uh, do you present it in maybe in a dramatical way so that they understand better?
Yeah, so we definitely incorporate a mix. Our planning to is putting arts into it. So, learning and education come in many different forms,
Yeah.
and so we want to put poetry in it to kind of share
Right.
that, touch on the arts piece, but also inform them of the education and the statistics and the actual facts that are equally important. So whether it's dance, poetry, something, we like to incorporate that into our programs.
All right. Okay. So, what strategies will you implement to promote early detection, and how will you ensure that women have access to screening services?
Yeah, so one, we've created different informational sheets, so pamphlets I know a lot of times when we go to outreaches, a lot of the information is lost. So we hope that that's something they can take with them to their parents, or we can give it to them so they keep it and hold it.
Okay.
And then we're working alongside and trying to look for different health centers, local community clinics to collaborate with them into providing this access and tying them together so that it's not just the education, but they actually can have the ability to get it done and then the follow up. So it's one, cohesive piece.
Okay. So which demography are you primarily, targeting in
Mm-hmm.
your sensitization and education?
Yeah, so this is actually being targeted for everyone, to be honest, because
Okay.
not only the women and the girls, which we've talked about, so girls ages 9 to 14, and
Mm.
then women 15 and up, but we also target the boys. So we include them in this outreach because they play a role. They're equally affected by not cervical cancer, but HPV, which is the virus that causes the cancer.
Okay.
So they take part in transmitting.
Mm.
So we have to talk about it with them. It's equally important. It's good for them to be aware so they can help their sister, their mother, anybody. So we include everybody in it.
Okay. Amazing. So how do you plan to address cultural beliefs and practices that may impact women's willingness to participate in screening and prevention?
Yeah, so I find this one a very fun one actually because I'm learning a lot about the culture, but equally in any of our outreaches, we always open it up for questions. So we
Okay.
want to attack and direct these questions very appropriately. And what is the hesitancy?
Mm.
Asking them, okay, why? Is there a barrier? So if there's myths, what things can we treat or kind of just prove that, okay, it's misinformation. So
Mm.
something that is maybe culturally really based from something they've had or they've been told, or practices. Science is very black and white.
Mm.
So we try to give that education, but also being very respectful because there's a place for culture, right?
Mm.
There's a place for that things can work. So
Okay.
we have that with that.
So I know I've heard people say that it's only for people who are, sexually active. What
Yes.
you've heard that, right?
Oh, yes.
So what do you tell them?
I tell them no, because yes, is this most commonly transmitted that route,
Okay.
but the way to prevent it is before that.
Right.
So that's why it's so important. And if anybody ever wants to have a child one day or anything, so HPV is everywhere. It's like a virus. It's
Mm.
spreadable. It's through skin to skin contact, very intimate. So the prevention period is really that age that's prior. And so that's why we need to educate the younger women because that's the chance that they can get access to the vaccine.
Okay, so do you have any success stories or testimonials from women or communities engaged in your current program?
Yeah, so in the last year, we reached over 2,000 girls and boys all over different schools in Abuja, just spreading the educational piece. But what has been helpful is when we start asking those questions, the things that they come up with really helps us identify what is still needed.
Okay.
And to be honest, this topic there's so much unknown about it, there's so much misinformation. And it's almost unfortunate if you don't have that education or you don't have that information, but you can do something about it. So,
All right. So what are some of those questions that they come up with? Some questions
yeah,
that
I
I've
mean,
asked.
one is just they don't know what cervical cancer is at all.
Right.
Some have told me, oh, will I get pregnant if I'm being touched by anybody? Just a touch.
Mm.
So it is hard because you deal with a lot of this internal questions that can really play a role in how you act to the community, how you work with your fellow brother or sister. And so it's important that that information gets corrected because we don't want you to go down the road thinking that and then not be able to have access. Same with infections. There's a lot of misunderstanding about that. They don't know the signs for it. And some of these girls have asked me, oh, I've had this for the last 3-4 months without knowing what it is. We have to have that empowerment for our own self so we can take care of our own self.
All right. So what advice would you give?
Lots no, but the advice is, cervical cancer is very prevalent. It is a disease that we need to be more educated about. So I think just taking the education that you can get, for girls out there who are age 9 to 14, to get the vaccine. It's the only vaccine that can prevent cancer. There's not another vaccine that does that. And many countries around globally have implemented campaigns that have shown effectiveness with it. So,
All right. Thanks so
yeah,
much, Jocelyn,
thank you.
for shedding light on such an important health issue.
Thank
And
you.
we appreciate your work and your voice. Thank
Yes,
you so
thank you
much
so
for
much.
coming on the show. Wish you all the best.
Thank you.
All right. And we're going to be shifting gear from health to something that is fun. And this is board games. So let's take a look at this feature talking about board games. Enjoy.